Okay, so let's see. Oh, come. All right. Slide 5. Okay, can I just get a quick mic check? They can hear me and see slide 5 of our second Jamboard. Okay, thanks. Okay. All right. So I just want to go over what we built and how it relates to what's currently in the industry. Um, so we built um, this Django app, and it basically took care of. We had this. It took care of the presentation with HTML and the data with the model, and I basically mixed it together with like p tags and then like your Python model data. Um, that's how this that's what we just built, right? This Django app. So that's what you would refer to the monolithic architecture, where you have one app that does pretty much everything. So the next generation over, they try to kind of split this up. Okay, so what that ends up being, go to slide 6 now, um, is we have we can have still a Django app. It still takes care of just the data, and then we have another app um, that just serves the HTML and JavaScript. So when the user in the browser first hit, um, it's all hidden behind some proxy. So it looks like one site, but it's actually two separate servers. So when the browser fetches it, it'll get the HTML first, and then the HTML is running on 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 the browser, and then when it needs the data, it makes the next call, uh, and then the Django portion would actually get the request and goes back with typically it's JSON data, so JavaScript object notation. So it's really good for data, specifying data is a format for data, whereas YAML is a format for configurations. So this is kind of like the two-tier. Um, so it split the app between the front end and the back end. And when you hear about the front end frameworks, such as Angular, Vue.js, and React.js, um, so they're in this space on the front end side, they'll, I mean, like if you think about it, your JavaScript can create all the HTML elements and all the styles, right? You've seen a little bit of that when you did jQuery. So, it's not hard to imagine that you just write a lot more JavaScript code to kind of like generate all of the HTML for you in your application. And that's the idea. Um, so this is kind of called a single page app. You're basically loading one page, and then that page keeps on updating based on the data that's coming back and based on what the user provides. So it's called a single page app, SPA for short. So a note, like we wrote when we, oh, I need to go back here. When we did the Django, we wrote HTML, but we could have stuck um, in our HTML, we could have stuck in the React Vue and Angular. We could have our single page app in there as well. That some people do that, and that's one way to get the benefits of React, Angular, and Vue. Um, so that's one way to kind of like um, make your monolith a little bit easier to maintain. So the next iteration, um, so we were to, let's duplicate this one. Word. Oh, yeah. Okay. So duplicate this one, and then go to slide 7. All right. So we have a model. So we had greetings. Uh, we have a greetings resource, and if we were to add more resources, say, I don't know, farewells or user, right? There's more resources and apps or services that we can create within this Django app. So the next iteration of architecture is to split those up. So if we split those up, then what we end up is kind of this architecture where you have one API only for greeting, one, so it's called API headless because there's no HTML. It's just JSON, right? Everything is being returned as data, JSON. So we had farewell, and then we had user, right? So we split it up into 3 separate groups, apps that each have their own database. So this, and then, we can have one front end, like one HTML, or we can have multiple. And then, so this is called like microservices, where each one is kind of divided. And then you probably need additional infrastructure like queues and self-service discovery, which gets way more complex. So the point of telling you all this is really that the monolith that, oh, sorry, I need to be up here. The monolith that we built is kind of the first step, and it's very foundational, right? If one were to just try to dump you into this microservices, it'll just be too much, right? And it is a buzzword now. A lot of people are trying to jump onto it, but I found that if your team size is small, you kind of want a team for each of these apps. But if you have a small team, it might not be best, and um, that this, you know, this I think is a good balance between separating concerns. Like you don't want, you have your front end developer, and all you care about is the data, and then you have a back end developer, and they don't step on each other's foot, as opposed to like having data and HTML together. So for small teams, I think this architecture works well. Definitely, you have a larger team size, and you need to start moving separately. Then microservice might help. And if you know Jeff Bezos from Amazon, he always recommends the 2-pizza team size rule. So your team should not be greater than um, what a 2-pizza can feed. Or yeah, shouldn't have more people than what 2 pizzas can feed. Okay. So yeah, so we built a monolith. It's the first generation of these other architectures, but it is the easiest to learn, and it should, with learning the monolith, you should be able to move into these other areas a little bit easier than if you were to just jump into those areas. And again, it's just really dividing front end, back end, and then dividing up the resources after that. That's very simplistic way of explaining it. There's more involved, but I don't want to belabor that. So yeah, if there's nothing else, that's all I wanted to kind of mention about that. If there's any questions, comments, concerns. Um, Otherwise, I'll stop the video, and then I'm gonna have that audio problem, and I'll stick around if anyone's have questions. But you're free to head out and enjoy your nice long weekend. So thank you. All right, stop.